Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a question that has honestly kept people up at night for centuries, a question that sits at the very heart of one of the most powerful stories ever told. You know the one, right? It doesn't seem fair, does it? When you see someone who's done nothing wrong go through something terrible, it shakes you. It makes you question the very nature of justice in the world. So, where do we even begin to tackle a question this huge? Well, there's an ancient masterpiece called the Book of Job. It comes from a part of the Hebrew Bible known as wisdom literature. And let me tell you, this book does not shy away from the tough stuff. It basically puts the whole problem on trial. Now, the story gets going in a pretty unexpected place. Not on Earth, but way up in the heavens. And what happens there is going to have some, well, devastating consequences for our guy Job. The book is actually built kind of like a sandwich. It starts and ends with a straightforward story, but that whole middle section, that's one long, intense, poetic debate. All right, so let's meet the cast. First, you've got Job, our main character, who is described as basically the perfect guy, blameless, upright, the whole deal. Then, of course, you have God. And then there's this really fascinating third figure, the Satan. Now, this is super important. This is not the devil with horns and a pitchfork. The title literally means the accuser. Think of him more like a heavenly prosecutor whose job is to test people's integrity.
So this accuser steps up in the heavenly court and throws down a challenge. He basically says, hold on a minute, Job's only a good guy because you've given him everything. He's rich, he's got a great family. Take all of that away, and I bet his so-called faith will just completely fall apart. It's a cosmic wager. Is Job's faith the real deal, or is it just a business transaction?
And unbelievably, God allows the test to happen. What follows is just brutal. In one catastrophic blow after another, Job's world is completely torn apart. His wealth, gone. All 10 of his children, killed in a single tragic event. And when you think it can't possibly get any worse, he's hit with this awful, painful skin disease from head to toe. He has lost everything. Okay, so that's the setup. Now we get to the real meat of the book. Job is sitting there in the dirt, in agony, and 3 of his friends show up, supposedly to comfort him. But what unfolds isn't really comfort. It's this incredibly long, passionate debate where they all try to make sense of why this is happening. And this is where the core conflict really takes shape. On one side, you have Job, who is just adamant. He insists, I am innocent. I've done nothing to deserve this. He's so sure of it that he actually demands a face-to-face meeting with God to plead his case. On the other side are his friends, Eliphaz, Bildad, and Zophar, and they're convinced, absolutely convinced, that Job must have some secret sin. They keep pushing him. Just confess, Job. Confess and it'll all be over. Getting harsher and harsher when he refuses. See, his friends are working off this one really simple idea we call the retribution principle. It's a very tidy cause and effect view of the world. God rewards good people and punishes bad people, period. So in their minds, if you're suffering this badly, well, the math is easy. You must be guilty. And the entire book of Job, really, is a powerful attack on that kind of black and white thinking. Before the debate peters out, this younger guy named Elihu jumps in. He has a slightly different take. He says, hey, maybe the suffering isn't a punishment for something you did. Maybe it's more like a divine correction, a tool to build your character and keep you from sinning in the future. It's a bit more nuanced, but he's still trying to find a logical, understandable reason for all this pain. So after all the back and forth, all the human arguments are completely spent. There's just silence. And then the moment Job has been demanding, the moment he's been begging for, finally happens. God answers him. But the way it happens, it's not what anyone, especially Job, saw coming. And here is the absolute kicker. God doesn't explain a single thing. He never mentions the heavenly wager. He doesn't validate the friend's accusations. Instead of answering Job's why me, God completely reframes the entire conversation by taking Job on this virtual tour of the mind-bending, vast, and wild universe. God just starts firing off these incredible poetic questions. Job, were you there when I laid the foundations of the earth? Can you tell the sun when to rise? It's a way of showing the almost comical gap between human power and divine power. It's like asking, do you have any idea how any of this actually works? And the questions keep coming, each one bigger than the last. Do you know the secrets hidden in the deepest parts of the ocean? Now, the point here isn't to crush Job or make him feel stupid. It's to humble him. It's to gently show him that his idea of what's fair is based on such a tiny, tiny sliver of reality. The universe is just bigger, wilder, and way more complex than his personal rulebook can account for. This question really gets to the heart of it all. God is showing Job this unimaginably complex cosmos that he's running, and the implied question is massive. If you can't even begin to understand the physical rules of my world, what makes you think you can fully grasp the moral justice behind how I govern it? And with that, the story wraps up. Job is completely humbled. He basically says, you know what? I take it all back. I was talking about things I know nothing about. But then comes this amazing twist. God turns to Job's friends and tells them, you guys got it all wrong. Job, he was the one who spoke truthfully about me. And after that, everything Job lost, his health, his family, his wealth, is restored to him. Twice over. Okay, so that's the whole epic story, but we're left with the big question, right? What on earth are we supposed to take away from this incredible, difficult, and ancient tale? Well, the first big takeaway is a huge one. The book completely demolishes that simple little formula that says all suffering is a direct punishment for sin. Job's story forces us to stare a really tough truth in the face. Sometimes, terrible things happen to good people for reasons that are far beyond our neat and tidy calculations. The second theme is all about humility. God's big speech from the whirlwind isn't really an answer. It's a perspective reset. It suggests that real wisdom isn't about knowing everything, but about recognizing how much we don't know. It's about trusting that there's a bigger picture, a cosmic purpose that we can only see a tiny fraction of. And finally, and this might be the most radical idea of all, the book totally redefines what faith looks like. I mean, Job's faith wasn't quiet and polite. He yelled at God. He accused him of being unjust. And in the end, God says he was the one speaking the truth, not his friends with their easy, pious answers. So true faith, it seems, isn't about silent acceptance. It's about an honest, gut-wrenching, messy struggle. So ultimately, the book of Job doesn't give us the neat answer we think we want for why we suffer. And you know what? That's its genius. It refuses to. Instead, it offers us something much more valuable, a model for how to hold onto your faith and your integrity, not by finding easy answers, but by having the courage to live inside the profound and difficult questions. So that's the final thought. The next time you're faced with a why, will you search for a simple answer, or will you find the strength to embrace the mystery?